Hi, I'm Yannis Roussos, the product manager of the database group, and I'd like to take you through what we're planning to achieve in GitLab 15.3, which is scheduled to be released on August 22nd of 2022. So not a lot of new things on our side. We keep on working on our top priorities while we are pretty low on capacity. Our top priority keeps on being the batch background migrations. We're almost done. The most important thing is the effort on improving batch handling. This is important for two reasons. The first one is because we want to cover all cases to make batch background migrations feature complete, to allow us to be able to run all the types of background migrations that we want to execute. And the second one is because this is the core task that we're doing with those batch background migrations, those asynchronous jobs that run on the background and update data. So whatever added value we can continue adding is important for the availability and reliability of GitLab.com and GitLab instances. Our second top priority is updating the migration helpers that perform data operations so that they can use batch background migrations. What's the problem here? We have a lot of helpers, a lot of libraries, for example, for doing database operations, for doing partitioning, helpers that rename columns, move columns, copy data from one column to another, change the data type of a column, and many more. All those database operations that also perform data operations are not using batch background migrations right now. So the idea here, now that the batch background migrations framework has matured and we really trust it, we want to rewrite all our database libraries to use the batch background migrations, which will make all our operations way more efficient and also way better monitored. The final one is improving the self-managed experience. This is important for us, whatever we can do to make running a GitLab instance as seamless as possible, and also help GitLab instance administrators address issues during upgrades, etc. Our next priority is the throttling mechanism. This is the next big thing that we're working on. So this is our work on monitoring production database clusters and responding in real time to changing conditions by throttling our background jobs, the rate at which we update data, or even pausing those background jobs when we see that there is a big problem on a production system, so that we don't affect it anymore. So we have two initiatives that we were working throughout 15.1 and 15.2. They're ready to be released. The first one, this is the first action that we're going to release, is pausing the migration while auto vacuum is running on a tape. This is auto vacuum is the most important maintenance operation that a PostgreSQL server runs. We don't want to run data migrations at the same time as auto vacuum runs. So the idea is check that the auto vacuum is running and pause any migrations, any data updates on that table, wait for it to finish, and then restart. This is completed. We have merged the code. The only missing part is to roll out the feature flag that will allow us to test it on GitLab.com production. And once we validate that everything works as expected, also release it to self-managed instances. Our second update is pausing migrations when the wall queue pending archival crosses a threshold. Walls are the database, are our backups. So, and the wall archival process is very important for the availability of any database system, and for GitLab as well, which depends for the persistent storage of user data on the database. We don't want this queue of wall segments to grow too long. So if we identify that there are a lot of wall segments pending archival, which is a threat, a risk for our availability, if the database goes down, we cannot restore it, we cannot go back. We want to pause the migration and give some time to the system and the archival process to archive all the remaining wall segments. This is also almost done. It is in review. We expect to release it, to test it, then validate it during 15.3, and then release it to self-managed instances. On new initiatives, we want to also add code that pauses migrations when the Patroni updates drops below an SLO. Patroni are our database servers. So we have an update that checks the health, how well are things going on our database servers. This is the main monitoring signal we have that things are not going well, and it's a very early lead indicator. So the moment we see that Patroni updates going down, so for example, in a GitLab.com below 99.99%, we want to immediately stop everything, because this is a leading indicator something is happening with the production system. Let the production system recover, and then restart the migrations. And finally, also throttling migrations when the wall rate exceeds a threshold. So the rate of generating wall segments exceeds the threshold, because that is also an indicator that there are too many writes. There is something happening there. It's not about an incident, but some other processes want to do a lot of writes. Let's pause the background jobs that execute the synchronous updates. Let them finish. They have a higher priority, and then continue. That's it on this effort. Finally, we have this issue that we're going to finish in 15.3 about a bug on the database load balancer, where when we mix writes and there is a needing transaction timeout between writes, the transaction is, of course, rolled back on Postgres, but there is an edge case scenario where the load balancer decides to retry the transaction starting from the middle. And this is, of course, a big problem for the consistency of the data stored. We are almost done. We have a theory that about why this is happening. We have a fix. It's we want to release it and monitor and check if the fix that we have implemented fixes the problem. Finally, this is an internal only thing. We want to also add one additional node on our internal testing database cluster for testing against the new decomposed CI database. At the moment, we have both databases in the same database server. It's a matter of allowing us to scale our testing capabilities. That's all. Thank you for watching, and talk to you next month.